Big trust.
60 minutes! 60 minutes!
God can have his soul, but his ass belongs to me.
What's up, flock? It's Joe Noobo, and I want to welcome you to this week's preview for the Baltimore Ravens Cincinnati Bengals matchup. So, a lot of interesting stuff to get into, a lot of numbers to get into. But first, before we jump into that, I just want you guys to understand something. You want to give that like button a smash for the power of the stash, and make sure you respect the stash, all right? So guys, welcome to today's video. We have a very special guest coming on to talk about the Bengals, and he is going to be representing the Bengals today. We got my guy, Ace Boogie from New Stripe City. What's going on, Ace? Thank you for joining, man.
Appreciate it, Joe. Thanks for having me, man. Glad to be here.
Absolutely, man. So how are you feeling about this game? I know you guys are coming off your very first win of the season. Joe Burrow finally gets his first NFL win. I know you're hype about it, man. So what are your expectations for this Bengals team going up against the Baltimore Ravens at home here?
I think that this is a benchmark, right? I think obviously Jacksonville was a lesser team. They still had some talent, but they're nowhere near in the realm of Baltimore. So I think that this is an exciting game for us because we get to see if Zach Taylor can continue to call some creative play calls. We have to see if this offensive line can continue to hold up and see what Joe Burrow can do in a matchup against a guy that's the reigning MVP and Lamar Jackson. So I'm very excited to see where this team goes moving forward.
Yeah, so last year we had a matchup in Baltimore, and that was actually my first home game that I ever went to in Baltimore, so that's always going to hold a dear place in my heart. We ended up winning, I believe, 23-17, a lot closer than our second matchup in Cincinnati, which was an absolute blowout. All right, so we will start off with the Bengals offense. Now, obviously, this is subject to change because we still have the Monday night games to be played, so this isn't the final numbers after this week. But the Bengals offense right now is ranked 21st as they are averaging 364.3 yards per game. They are 15th in points as they are averaging 24.8 points per game. And they have the 16th best passing offense, averaging 253.5 yards per game, and they have the 18th rushing offense averaging 110.8 yards per game there. So probably the biggest weakness, I would say, is the offensive line for the Bengals, right? Is there any other underlying weaknesses that you might be concerned about going into this Baltimore game, or is it really just the offensive line that we got to look out for?
I would say the offensive line is clearly the weakness of this team. However, they did play pretty solid, and there's been a little bit of, I would probably say, a scheme issue between Jim Turner marrying that scheme with the offense, which we kind of saw last year. There's also been some injuries at the right guard position, right? It's just been a rotating kind of gaping weakness there for them, especially when you talk about Fred Johnson, who was just abysmal. Billy Price, abysmal. They actually ended up going to Alex Redmond, which was a guy that they actually cut, brought him back to the practice squad and put him out there, and he managed to hold up. So it's really going to come down to that offensive line, not only just from a pass blocking standpoint. They were bad at run blocking. However, in this last game, obviously with Joe Mixon getting it going, maybe they have something where they can at least play average. If they can play average, and I'm just saying average, not, amazing or anything, this offense can be deadly. Like if Joe Burrow can actually get time to go through his progressions, then yeah. But outside of that, I would probably say the second biggest weakness is probably the tight end position. You got an injury there in CJ Uzomah, which was huge. He went out in that Browns game. And you got Drew Sample, who's capable. But as I told you, Drew Sample made the mistake where he was able to let the defender Miles Jack wrestle away a touchdown. And that was huge in that game. And he also had another play where he went up for a pass and it went straight through his hands. And this was a guy that they put a second-round pick investment-wise in, which I personally didn't agree with. But, hey, he's the guy. He's all they have. And there's really nothing after him. Like you got to pass to Cethan Carter last week. He's more of an H-back. But you don't really have anything in the tight end position. So that could be something where the Ravens will look and say, hey, we don't really have to guard this guy like that, and we can focus on some of those other receivers and this running game and load the box and stuff like that. So that may be a weakness, but outside of that, honestly, there's really no weaknesses outside of the offensive line playing consistently and the tight end position.
So, yeah, my concern, I would say, for this Bengals offense is this receiving core. It's something that I've talked about during the offseason, that I think this receiving core is extremely underrated for some reason, even though they got these names, bro, like AJ Green. Obviously, Ravens fans, we already know what he does, man. He has his reputation amongst us fans. So, Auden Tate's a great receiver. T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, also bad reputation amongst us Ravens fans. So this receiving core is something to look out for, especially because our defense hasn't been the hottest. So why don't we jump into some of these numbers and some of these rankings here? So for the Ravens defense, they are actually 15th in total defense, allowing an average of 367.5 yards per game. However, they are third in points, as they have allowed an average of 18.3 points per game. And this is the kicker here, 25th in passing defense, allowing an average of 270 yards per game. However, they are tied for 6th in rushing defense, allowing an average of 97.5 yards per game. So Joe Mixon absolutely balled out last game against the Jags. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but from an outsider's perspective, I don't remember the last time Joe Mixon has had this type of game that he had against the Jags. I don't know if he ever had like that big of a game. You can correct me if I'm wrong. But this offense, I think that the way that our defense has been playing, man, obviously the pass rush is a problem. We haven't been able to get any consistent pass rush, especially when we send 4. It feels like we have to send the blitz just to get any amount of pressure. And sometimes that doesn't even work, it feels like. So the linebackers, they've been playing well. Patrick Queen, rookie, and Malik Harrison, as well as LJ Fort, have been looking pretty solid. They had a good game this past game against the Washington football team, but against the Chiefs, they were getting absolutely toasted. Secondary-wise, we know what Marlon Humphrey can do. Probably our best defensive player that we have. Safeties have been solid. Marcus Peters was getting targeted by Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, man. It feels like they specifically game plan for Marcus Peters because they know his tendencies. They know he likes to take chances. So it feels like they were absolutely game planning for that. But yeah, I think that the Bengals offense might actually be able to put up a lot of yardage on us and a lot of points on us, man. So it's a little bit concerning. However, the one thing that I'm kind of laying my hat on is that we do pretty well historically against rookie quarterbacks. So how does Joe Burrow fare like against the blitz? Does he do fairly well, would you say?
He does very well. I mean, he's honestly been under duress the entire season. This guy's not a rookie quarterback. So if you're expecting him, and that's what we were thinking at first, we were thinking, okay, he's going to make some mistakes here or there. This guy is not like, he doesn't play like a rookie quarterback at all. You're going to expect that this guy is playing like he's probably had played in the NFL for like 5 years. Like, he doesn't really make mistakes. If there's something there, he's going to be smart about it. He's actually got the keys to the offense now. So he's actually being able to go to the line and change play calls and stuff like that. He's a smart guy. So I think that he'll take what the defense is going to give him. He's not going to force anything. And if he feels like something is there, then he's going to take advantage of it. I get what you're saying when you say like they're good against rookie quarterbacks. And I think Bill Belichick is the same kind of thing. But I'm telling you, I'm not just blowing smoke at you or anything like that. This guy does not play like a rookie quarterback, like at all. It doesn't even seem like this guy's a rookie the way that he plays. You also said in terms of Joe Mixon, that was one of his top performances. He did have another one. I think it was last year against the Browns, 162 yards. I don't know if it was a combined 3 touchdowns. He did have 2 in that one. But obviously he had the hat trick pretty much in this one. But this is an offense that can score. It's interesting to hear that Baltimore is 15th and 25th in passing. But I think, like you said yourself, some of these stats and rankings right now, they're kind of weird, right? Because I think last week, I think the Bengals were like close to the end of the league in rushing offense. Like after Joe Mixon's crazy day, now we just move all the way up. So, I mean, it's hard to really gauge that. And I mean, you guys are coming off of a game where you win against the Chiefs. They're going to be able to put up points and yards against anyone. That's not going to, remain consistent for the rest of the league. But yeah, Joe Burrow, I definitely, if I were you guys, prepare for this game like this guy is going to be like a veteran quarterback coming in here.
Yeah, I agree. every time I watch Joe Burrow play, it seems like he makes good decisions, which is something that, I mean, is so great for a rookie quarterback. And especially, I didn't even know he only threw 2 picks. I saw the 1 pick against the Jags, and then obviously I saw the one against in week 1 against the Chargers. But yeah, I thought that maybe he had thrown more in between that. So that's actually surprising to me. But, you know, he is a Heisman winning quarterback. And as the Ravens do, we also have a Heisman winning quarterback. So why don't we move on to the Ravens offense here? You might be surprised to find out that they are the 25th total offense right now, averaging 341.5 yards per game. Now, they are still 6th in points, as they have averaged 30.5 points per game. But they almost have the worst passing offense in the league, as we are ranked 31st. Only second to the New York Jets passing attack. So think about that. 180.8 yards per game here. And we are 4th in rushing, averaging 160.8 yards per game. You might be asking yourself, like, what's going on with the Ravens offense? Like, why are the numbers so bad? So it feels to me that we're kind of like going away from this read option offense that was doing so well for us last year. That's the reason that we were so successful, because you know, either Lamar has the ball or the running back has the ball, and you can't really tell. It's just so hard to tell. But we're trying to do a more traditional style of offense, just like drop back, running the ball, which I'm not a fan of. It hasn't really seemed to be working that well. I mean, obviously, we're still putting up over 30 points a game, which is great, and you love to see that. But it's definitely not running as smoothly as it was towards the end of last season, as we saw, because I mean, pretty much in that 12-game winning streak that we had, we were just running the ball no problem. Like, the offense was just walking right down the field with no issues whatsoever. But this season, it feels like a struggle. It does feel like a struggle. It seems like more of a struggle. Now, partly it could be because, you know, it's only the first month of the season. We're trying new things out. But yeah, so have you had a chance to see any Ravens games this year? And have you got a chance to look at the offense?
I have watched a couple because, as you know, I do the AFC North talk, so I have to watch you guys there. From what I've seen, like you said, it seems like you guys are trying to pass a lot more, especially in that home opener that you guys had against Cleveland. Right. But I don't know. I think like you said, I think maybe it's that Lamar is just trying to prove to everyone that he can be a prototypical quarterback, and I think that you kind of get yourself into a issue where you're kind of overthinking it, right? You guys were top 3, offense last year. Why change it? So I don't know if it's that. I pretty much feel like it's that now that you're telling me that you guys are trying a whole new offense. And then the other thing is, just from a Bengals fan perspective, because Lamar put us in like the washing machine and spin cycle last year and completely murdered us. I was watching that Chiefs game like heavy. And after he came out after that and said that, essentially the Chiefs did exactly what the Titans did, I'm just like, whatever that game plan is, let's run it. But yeah, I think that you guys bounced back like you should have last week. And I think that you should, like you're saying, like get back to what you guys are good at. Like, what's the point? Like, if you had Mike Vick right now, right? Are you going to make Mike Vick be a pocket passer? Like, look at when Carolina tried to do that. Hey, we're not going to let Cam Newton run. That didn't work out so well. So it's a part of what he is. It's a part of what your identity is. And I think that it just helps your offense flow a lot better if you guys get back to that. But I am a believer in Lamar as a passer. I don't want people to think that I think that he's just a running back. I get what he's trying to do, but I think at this point you have to do what wins you football games, especially when you're trying to take the AFC crown. You definitely have to get back into that. But that is shocking to hear you guys in terms of that passing offense. And maybe that has a lot to do, really, again, like we said, with the stats being kind of so limited right now. Maybe it's based off of that Chiefs game because he only had 97 yards. So it's probably heavily factored onto that. But I think that one thing that I've said for the longest, just from an outsider looking in with you guys' position, is that you guys need to put more weapons around Lamar. We understand that Mark Andrews is a great guy. That's great for him. We've got Hollywood Brown. But outside of those guys, I don't really see too many guys just from my eye. I know that you guys have respect for Snead and stuff like that. But you still need some more weapons there. Like, I think even when you talk about the arms race against Pat Mahomes he's got so many weapons he can throw to. Tyreek Hill, I mean, Sammy Watkins would be the number one option on some teams, and he's like their third or fourth option. I think that you have to get more guys that are more consistent with him, and maybe it is Duvernay, maybe it's some of those guys over there. But until those guys show that they can expand, if you're going to a passing offense, you have to be able to depend on those receivers.
Yeah. No, everything you said is 100% correct in my opinion. I think a lot of it is a mental aspect. It's Lamar himself, maybe going to the coaches and saying, let's be a more traditional passing offense because I want to show everybody that I'm able to do that. And that's fine. I have no problem with that, but we're trying to win games. Like you said, we're trying to go for a Super Bowl here. So we got to do what works. And I'm hoping that we don't get stuck in the trap that we tend to get stuck in, that we're trying to, outpass the opposing quarterback, which is not a good idea, especially against this Bengals offense that has receiving weapons. They have options to go downfield, which we don't necessarily. So, yeah, I'm hoping that we just run this ball, man. But we do have to go against this Bengals defense, which, still seems to be struggling a bit to stop the run here. So let's take a look at some of these numbers here. They are 22nd in total defense, allowing an average of 305 yards per game, and 13th in points, allowing an average of 24.8 points per game. 16th passing defense, 243 yards per game, and 25th in rushing defense, allowing an average of 158.5 yards per game. Would you say that I know you guys added DJ Reader, which right. I always argued was because of Lamar Jackson probably and our rushing offense.
Definitely.
So would you say that it's improved this rushing defense from what we saw last year?
Well, what I would say is this. You could say that DJ Reader has been amazing. I'm not going to take anything away from him, but he's been fighting a one-man battle because we're missing Geno Atkins. He still has not played a game. Not only that, we also brought in Mike Daniels. Mike Daniels missed the last game. We're just really thin at the defensive tackle position. Like we're at the point where we're throwing college free agents in there at defensive tackle. We traded for a guy, Christian Covington. This guy wasn't even with the team maybe 2 days, and he was already getting starter snaps. So that tells you a lot about the defensive tackle position. From a defensive end position or standpoint, Carlos Dunlap is really off a little bit to a slow start for the season. He's still a decent guy, but the tear that he really was on last year did not carry over into the front end of this year. Now, I don't know if that has to do with Geno Atkins not being there, but it's literally been DJ Reader by himself. And we've also had some injuries and some inconsistencies at the linebacker position, which sound like a broken record because I probably said that last year. Right after the Bengals finally got some quality play from Logan Wilson at the linebacker position in the Eagles game, he got a concussion in that game and was out. And so we had to throw in a mix of Jermaine Pratt, Josh Bynes, and they were serviceable, but they weren't Logan Wilson, right? And so that all comes together. But what I will say is I went into the Jacksonville game thinking that James Robinson was just going to open a can on us just like the Browns did with their run game, because the Browns pretty much tried to give everyone the guideline, take these guys at the defensive tackle position because no one's there. Like there's no Geno. It's only DJ Reader. As soon as DJ Reader goes out, it's 5 yards of carry. And Robinson still had a good game. Don't take it away from him. Like he may not have ran for 100 yards. That's somewhat not telling the full story. Because he averaged 4.4 yards per carry. And then late in the game, he actually had like a 15-yard run where he exploded and looked like he was headed towards a 100-yard day, and it got called back and derailed by penalty. So Jags had like 3 straight penalties. So that guy probably actually would have ended up running for 100 yards on this defense. But still, I have to give them credit. With all of those guys out, they still were able to hold him under 100 yards. So I think that the run defense is improving. In the pass defense, I would say it's weird because like you're saying with some of these stats, last week we were just 6th, and then we've dropped all the way to 16th because DJ Chark came and kind of tore us up a little bit. And the Jacksonville Jaguars, a lot of people may talk about them tanking and that they're so horrible. They've got a young, good receiving core there. You talk about Lavish Shenault, you talk about Chark, you talk about Dede Westbrook. So they had some guys, and it depends on, I think, like, from a Baltimore perspective, we're definitely keeping our eyes on Hollywood Brown. William Jackson III has played well. The secondary has also been something that's kind of shifted a little bit as well, because Darius Phillips was our second corner starting on the outside, but due to some certain injuries that we've had with Mackenzie Alexander going down, another free agency acquisition, that forced Darius Phillips to move inside and forced them to throw LaShawn Sims on the outside. Sean Sims was pretty bad. It was not good. So when you look at this secondary from that standpoint, the corners, William Jackson III is playing good ball. Anyone outside of him is shaky unless it's Mackenzie Alexander, who's currently hurt. I don't know if he'll be back for this game. That would be huge for us because he's great against wide receivers in the slot. You talk about the safeties. Von Bell has been solid. He hasn't been anything where he's lost the Bengals a game or he's done anything. He's just really been solid. He hasn't been amazing. The guy that I'd probably say has been the best in the secondary so far, Jesse Bates, hands down. I'm going to start calling him the Bates Motel because he's just really put together some very solid performances. And if I'm not mistaken, I think I saw on PFF, he's currently ranked right now the number 1 safety for his position. So I think as long as you stay away from Jesse Bates and maybe William Jackson III, you should be fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I would expect them to be taking Hollywood duties, I would imagine, because that's really the only receiver that's a threat on the Ravens. But anyway, so why don't we get into a score prediction? I know it's tough because we don't necessarily know with the injuries who's going to be playing and all that, but because it's still only Monday. So, but by the time we're recording this, but just a general feeling, why don't you give me your score prediction about this game, man?
I think that it's going to be a close one. I think a lot of points are going to be scored in this game. I think most people are coming in thinking, AFC North matchup, but I think that this is going to be the dawn of a new era. When you're talking about Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow, I think that this is going to be exciting. I honestly, in my full heart, believe that these are the 2 top guys at the quarterback position in the division now. Nobody's going to say it right now, but I really honestly feel like they are, especially seeing what Baker has done through his first couple of games. Ben is Ben, but I just think Burrow's ceiling is a little bit higher at this point, and obviously Lamar Jackson is sitting on the throne as the MVP. So with that being said, I think that this one is going to be 35-30. Ravens are going to edge us out.
All right, I like it. See, I have actually a little bit of a lower score. I have Ravens 26, Bengals 21. So I think it's going to be a little bit less scoring, but I could see it get high scoring, man, because both of these offenses have potential to really explode when the time is right. So, Definitely. All right. Well, Ace, why don't you go ahead and let the people know where they can find you, man, your social media, your YouTube, all that, anything you want to get out there.
Yeah, for sure. First off, Joe, thanks for having me on, man. We definitely have to do something with you on my channel as well.
Absolutely.
My channel, if you guys are looking, if you're trying to figure out some insight on the Bengals, you want to cross enemy lines and figure out what you can be looking forward to this week, you can find me at New Stripe City on YouTube. So that's New Stripe City. And then that's also the same name on Twitter, all one word. So at New Stripe City. And then you can also find me on the AFC North Talk. That's for all of the AFC North. So if you're looking for all of that insight from all of us, please be sure to subscribe there. But that's where you can find me. And coming soon, we've got some breaking news. So if you pay attention and stay subscribed, or if you become a new subscriber, I'll also be coming to another medium as well.
Awesome, man. So you guys, please make sure you check out my guy, Ace Boogie on New Stripe City. And also please subscribe to AFC North Talk. Great show. I love it, man. One of my favorite shows on YouTube out there right now. So thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to smash that like button. Leave a comment down below. Let me know who you guys think is going to get the dub. Share this with your friends. Subscribe if you haven't already. And I will see you in the next one.